Hello and welcome back. I'm Jay. Welcome to my new show that I'm calling Animal Reviews. Basically, with this video, I pretend to analyze animal species and in the end give it a rating considering several aspects like its physiology, its ecosystem role, its ecology, its uniqueness. So let's get started. In this first video, I thought I'd bring you a species that I have great consideration for, that I think it's very beautiful, a very unique species in my opinion. It's called Kyoglos Lucida. Its common name is golden striped salamander. Yes, it's a salamander, it's an amphibian. And I think this species is very unique for several reasons, and I'll tell you later. For starters, I would like to give you a description of the species, okay? So, this salamander, it's an amphibian, okay? So, as all amphibians, it has naked skin, okay? It has 4 limbs, 2 legs, 2 arms, okay? 5 fingers, the whole deal, okay? It's a very long salamander. It's about 15 centimeters long, okay, 15 centimeters, and its tail, it's about 2/3 of the whole body. It has a long tail. Now you might be asking, why does this salamander has such a long tail? Well, the main reason for an animal to have a tail or a long tail is to reserve fat, okay? Most animals use the tails as a special place to reserve fat, and this salamander is no exception. So if you're wondering why the long tail, it's probably the most reasonable explanation is to reserve fat. Now the body is colored black, and the salamander has 2 stripes on its back, and this is the reason why it's called the golden striped salamander, because of the orange stripes on her back. However, the thing that I find most curious about her coloring is in the right light, as you can see by the picture here, okay? In the right light, its body looks like the night sky. It looks like it's full of stars, and I think that gives a very unique aspect, very unique look to the species, okay? Now another curious thing is its skin is very thin, so when you have a female and it's the reproductive season, if you turn on her back and you look at her belly, you will be able to actually see the eggs inside. That's awesome. In my opinion, that's awesome. It's very cool thing, the way to distinguish both males from females, to look for the eggs. I think it's amazing. Another very curious thing about this species is it's the only species in the genus. So the genus is Kyoglos, in Kyoglos Lucida. This species is the only species in this genus. There's no other species like it, and besides that, this species, the salamander, only exists in Spain and Portugal. It's endemic to the Iberian peninsula, okay? So it's not only the only species in the genus, as to it only exists in a very restricted place. It exists in the northwestern corner of the Iberian Peninsula, covering Spain and Portugal a bit, okay? And it's very different from all other salamanders, and I'm going to tell you why. So the difference is in the tongue, okay? So most salamanders, I have elastic here, okay? So most salamanders, their tongue work like this elastic, okay? You see it? So they see an animal, they shoot, and they bring it back. You see it? It stretches and it comes back. This is the normal tongue of a salamander, okay? All salamanders, even chameleons, you might have seen videos of chameleons eating animals. They see an animal, they shoot, they bring it back, okay? Now, this salamander works a little bit different, okay? And I'm going to try to show you this piece of paper. So, the tongue on this salamander, while resting, looks like this, okay? Like a Z. You see? And when it sees an animal that wants to eat, it shoots out like this, and then it folds it back again. You see? You see the difference? Now, you might be thinking that this difference is not a very crucial difference, but it is, because it provides us proof that the lineage, the evolutionary lineage on this salamander is completely different from all the other salamanders and toads and frogs in the Iberian Peninsula and even in the world. And this is one of the reasons it stays on her own place in the genus Kyoglos. So another thing, this species, when it's the reproductive season, which is between August and October, between August and December, they go underground into caves or underground springs, okay? And what they do is essentially they start following a salamander, another one, okay? And if it so happens that this salamander they are following is a female, so they will begin courtship, and eventually they will begin mating, and the female will later lay about 9 to 34 eggs. It might seem like a lot, 34 eggs, but for amphibians it's not a lot, considering there are some species that lay up to 10,000 eggs or more. 34 is a very small number of eggs. Now, this mating and chasing process is somewhat what you might find in Thailand. When everyone goes to Thailand, you see a girl, you have always to be thinking, is it a girl or is it a boy dressed like a girl? The salamanders go through the same, okay? It's the same shit. They see another salamander, they chase it. Is it a boy, is it a girl? Oh, it's a girl. Awesome. Let's have sex. That's it. So the youngs, they lay the eggs, okay? Then the tadpole are born, they hatch, they take about 1 year to 2 years to metamorph into adults, and then only in the 5th year of being born, so the 3rd year after metamorphosis, it's the year they become active, they become full-on adults, they become reproductive, sexually active. That's the way you say it. Okay. So you might be thinking, okay, but is that all? Is that all? Okay, awesome. The color is nice. Okay, awesome. The tongue is different. Any other thing? Yes, this one is also a great thing. It's something that is quite unique in terms of the amphibians. Okay, in the amphibians, it's quite unique. This salamander that has a very long tail that uses it to storage fat can also drop the tail, just like a lizard. Okay, so if it's being chased by a predator, it has the ability to drop the tail. Let go of the tail, clean off, and keep going, and then grow the tail back. Now, obviously, that this has a big impact because she essentially gave up all her fatty tissue, but at least she got away with her life, with its life, and it can continue to feed and grow back the tail and fill it up with fatty tissue. But it's awesome, right? So this is all the things curious. Now, in terms of ecologically, it doesn't. This species, this salamander, doesn't play a very important role in the ecosystem. However, in terms of conservation, because this species is endemic to the Iberian Peninsula, which means that it only exists in the Iberian Peninsula. Besides that, the populations of this salamander are very small. So, in terms of conservation and in terms of conservation status, this salamander is considered in order to preserve it, to preserve it. And this species has a very unique habitat, and I'm gonna explain. So, as all amphibians, this species, this salamander, needs a very humid habitat, very humid surroundings, okay? And a curious thing is that this salamander likes moving waters, fast, cold waters. So it usually lives in mountain springs, okay? And so if it likes mountain springs, it lives in mountainous areas between 200 to 700 meters. It might go up to 1100 meters, but it's on that height. What makes this species very unique in its habitat is that another curious thing about this species is that most amphibians, when they get out of the water, they lose the gills and they have lungs. And they breathe through their lungs and through their skin. Now, why do they breathe through their skin? Because the lungs are not very efficient. Amphibian lungs work like a balloon. It's very simple. Blow up, blow out. While other lungs, like mammal lungs, like our lungs, human lungs, we have balloons inside balloons, and it's a lot more air and a lot more efficient. But in amphibians, it's just one balloon, and they cannot breathe only through their lungs. So they need their skin to breathe, and that's one of the reasons why they need very humid places, because water helps the oxygen molecules to go through their skin. Okay, this species, this salamander, the golden striped salamander, does not have lungs. Okay, so let's keep count the unique things on this salamander. It can drop its tail to escape predators. The tongue is different from all other salamander tongues. It's very unique. The black color has a shininess to it that resembles the night sky. Doesn't have lungs, breathes only through its skin. Now, this is amazing. But because it breathes only through its skin, if the habitat is polluted by any chemicals, it will absorb it right away and it will die. So, because it's vulnerable, we have to protect the woodlands around mountainous areas with streams on it. And by having conservation measures in order to protect this species, we end up protecting the whole habitat where this species live and all the other species that inhabit in it. So you might be thinking, but why are you telling us this? Because I was telling you that in terms of ecosystem, this species does not play a very important role. The salamander does not play a very important role in the ecosystem. If it were to disappear, no other species would go extinct. However, in terms of conservation, because when we preserve, we end up preserving all other species and the whole habitat, this makes this salamander crucial in the conservation of mountainous woodlands in the Iberian Peninsula. In terms of feeding habits, this species is also very common. It's just like any other amphibian species. It's a predator, it's carnivorous, specifically is an insectivorous animal. It eats mainly insects like ants, flies, maggots, also spiders. So nothing out of the ordinary, this species in this regard. This being said, I don't think there's much else that I can say about this species. I've told you about the reproductive cycle, I've told you about its habitat, its distribution, its physical looks. Now, I think the only thing left is to evaluate them. So, considering the unique starry night sky, starry night look, considering all the unique aspects, the tongue, the tail, the lack of lungs, considering the importance in conserving this species, from 0 to 10, I would have to give this species a 7.5. Now, let me explain. Obviously, this species is not perfect. It's an amphibian. It's a very curious looking amphibian, but it has that crucial role in the ecosystem missing, okay? If it were to disappear, there are other predators that play the same role as this species. There are other preys for the predators of this salamander, so no other animal was going to disappear. And because of that, I cannot give it a 10. However, I give it a 7.5 because I think this species is beautiful looking, and I think you can agree with me. After all, you all are looking at the picture, okay? I think the fact that it's only species in a genus gives it a whole lot of another meaning, okay? Because it's very important to keep it alive in order to study the evolutionary process that happened in Europe prior and after the glacial eras. This is another other topic. I'm not going to get into this. So 7.5. It's a high score. It's up there. And I thought it was a good species to bring you to the first episode. If you like, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to leave a comment telling me what species would you like me to review next. Okay, I will gladly read about any species that you give me. I will review it, and yeah, You can also check my Twitch channel, I'll leave the link below. In my Twitch channel I mainly game. Here in YouTube I try to make these nature related videos. I hope you like it and see you soon.